Welcome back from that break. Let me quickly introduce my guest for this evening. I've been joined by D. Kojo Yankson, Super Morning Show, Joy FM, podcaster extraordinary. Hi, Kojo.
Hi, Amma.
Great to have you back.
It's always great to be here.
Looking good as always.
Oh, you're very kind.
We've also been joined by Kwame Owusudan. So, morning show host, Pan African TV. Should I go on? Corporate communications. Can I go on? Or that's okay. It's good to see you, Kwame.
Thank you, Amma.
Right. Okay. So, I would want us. Our issues are many. We have a lot of issues to get to for this week. It's almost as if, all the issues are being thrown at us. But I really would want us to start from, for me, perhaps what is most trending at the moment. And that would perhaps be the one of the AG and, this Mr. Japa secret meetings, secret recordings. It's interesting for me that that's not even the substantive issue. What seems to have our attention right now is not even what the substantive issue really is. It's like a side issue, sort of. But that side issue then by itself has a life of its own, isn't it? It's a major issue if it turns out, to be what it is in the, public space. It's a lot. I'll start with you, Kojo. I'll start with you.
Yeah. So it all started in court. This case has been going on for quite some time, since 2022. And the Attorney General has gone through his examination and cross-examination of... There were 3 accused people. So the first 2 accused people have been examined, cross-examined, and all of that. He was down to the 3rd. And this was the time for cross-examination by the Attorney General. And at some point, this 3rd accused person, who we now know to be Mr. Jakba, sort of had an outburst and said, look, if you keep pushing me, I'm going to say things. I'm going to talk about all of the communications that have been going on outside this courtroom between you and me. You're calling me in the middle of the night. You're trying to get me to testify against the first accused, which is Ato Forson. Trying to get me to do all of these things. If you keep pushing me, I'll let these things out. Now, the Attorney General did not object, which is normally the way to curtail anybody's testimony. If you think that they are giving testimony which should not be given, or which doesn't help your case in court, what you do is you object, right? If I'm correct, yeah. There was no objection. Rather, he kept saying, "Tell the truth, tell the truth." And then I think the judge must have intervened. Otherwise, I don't know how it would have ended. And then the matter continued. But of course, that outburst made the news. And the NDC immediately jumped on that with some communication of their own. Now, without touching on the substance of their communication, which I'll do next, but before I touch on the substance, can I just say, it was nice to see the NDC wake up for a change and actually, do what is expected of them, which is to take up a matter, and use it to pursue their cause. I have criticized them on numerous occasions for failing to do that. Now, I'm yet to touch on the substance of what they said, but just the fact that somebody was awake to very quickly jump on the communication that very day and present a position of the party is a positive. I want to commend them for getting it right on that account. Then, they came out and said, look, there's more to this. There are tapes, there are recordings. We know a lot. In fact, the Attorney General has acted in ways that are not only unlawful but unethical. And there was a litany of accusations, including this claim that there had been a meeting between the Attorney General and Jakpa in the home of a sitting Supreme Court judge. Also quite an interesting revelation. So the thing started just falling out one over the other. Then the Attorney General's office also responded and said, wait, what are you accusing me of here? Are you saying that I have broken the law? I've spoken to a represented person without the presence or permission of his representative? No, I've not done that. That is not what has happened here. In fact, I don't need to do that because I'm winning the case. I have been prosecuting them since God knows how long. I've presented my evidence. It's all about documentation. The document says A, can you deny it? If not, then my case stands. So I'm winning. I don't need anybody to testify on behalf of anybody or against anybody. I'm winning. And in any case, I have finished with Atoforsen. I'm now on the third accused person. So what is this claim that I'm trying to get him to testify against? No, I've already, my case is strong. So no, that's not what's happening. Besides, I can rather prove to you that they are the ones who have been actually pleading with me to give them a deal. Both the third and the first accused persons. They have been pleading with me to give them a deal. I have refused, or I am not happy with the deal they are offering. So I haven't agreed. So then we had these two sides to deal with. Then NDC promised that, look, we'll release evidence, which is what's happened this week. And this is where it gets interesting. So the evidence they released was the recording of part of a phone conversation between Richard Jakpa and the Attorney General. Lots of things were said. Most of the conversation that was recorded was about them debating the legal points, something to do with LCs, letters of credit. What time was the LC released? Was it right for it to be released at that time? Had the goods been shipped or not? You know, some technical debate between the two of them. Dame insisting that, well, I don't agree with your interpretation. Jakpa saying, no, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is what I believe is the right thing. So it's a dispute of ideas. Then Jakpa introduces something. The Attorney General in the recording says, okay, well, I mean, look, if you want a plea deal with me, then I expect you to give the testimony that aligns with my interpretation of this law or of the legal situation. Jakpa says, no, I can't do that. Because I believe in my position.
I would be dishonest.
And if I say something that is different from what I believe, I'm being dishonest. I don't want to do that. Besides, the effect of it is that someone else will go to jail. Me, I believe I am innocent. I'm being prosecuted by you. I believe I'm innocent. I shouldn't go to jail. So does that person. He also believes he's innocent. So I can't be the reason why that person will go to jail. So I don't want to do it the way you want. Right? Then there is this bit at the end where Dami says, okay, well, I need to travel or I need to go somewhere. So I won't be there for your final submission in court. I want to be there. So look, I think Jakpa first says, oh, I'll actually still be talking by the time you come back. And he said, okay, well, to be certain, can you ask for what's it called? Give an excuse duty. Excuse, what do they call it? Excuse duty. So basically, bring a sick note from your doctor, so that the judge will grant us a continuance or give us an adjournment. And Jakpa said, hey, don't you remember the last time I did that? When I was sick and I did that. That one cry, I was very seriously ill. I was in hospital. But they issued a bench warrant against me. So please don't put me in that position for the judge to do this to me again. Then the conversation ends soon after that. So then the issues the NDC present from there are also some screenshots of conversations, chats that were also submitted. The issues the NDC present from this is that, one, if you listen to the tape, it says that the Attorney General, first of all, is talking to a represented person. And the rules are against that. The Attorney General, if he wants to speak to the other side in a case, it's allowed, but speak to his representative. Or if you are going to communicate with that person, it must be either in the presence of or with the permission of his representative. Otherwise, it's unethical for you to have that communication. But this phone conversation is the Attorney General speaking directly to this person. So that's the first problem. Second problem, the Attorney General is asking him to lie. Right? That's the NDC's position. That, look, you are asking him to do it your way. He says if he does that, he will be dishonest. So that means you are asking him to lie. Then the third one is the thing about the excuse duty. So you are asking him to come and deceive the judge. That is perjury. So these are very serious accusations leveled against the Attorney General. Now that I've gone through it, I'm going to do something different. Might be a bit of a surprise to those of you watching, but I want you to bear with me. While I'm saying it, I want you to remember that I'm the same person. I'm the most critical person of this our government. You won't find a more critical person of this government than me. So give me the benefit of the doubt while I make these points. The reason why I'm able to make these points is because I'm looking at this matter the same way I would look at any matter that falls on my desk. My job is to question everything, not to take anything for granted. So that's what I'm going to try and do very quickly in 2 minutes so that we can hear from everyone else. I'm questioning everything. So the first question is this: did the Attorney General speak to a represented person? Right? Did he have that conversation we had with a person who at the time had a lawyer? Did he? Because if he did, big problem. Okay. The Attorney General's office says on record that at the time that conversation was recorded, and this was just a few weeks ago, by the way, not very long ago, just a few weeks ago, that at that material time, Richard Jakpa was not represented. That's what the Attorney General's office says. As for this one, you don't even need to listen to me. This is a verifiable fact. Whether or not he was represented, we can find out. So that one, I won't dwell on it too long. We can go and find out. Right? The second one is, did the Attorney General ask Richard Jakpa to lie? Now at this point it becomes interesting, because we heard them debate throughout the conversation. We heard the Attorney General saying that, I don't agree with you. This is my view, in my opinion, which, well, I mean, that is the nature of a court case. It is two people with varying opinions, each trying to convince a judge. That is the definition of court case, right? So the fact that the Attorney General has a different opinion to Jakpa is no surprise. The fact that the Attorney General is saying that if you want a deal with me, then I want to hear you speaking about this case the way I speak about it. You have to see it from my point of view. Otherwise, we don't have a deal. Is that illegal? That is literally what he's doing in court, by the way. When he puts the witness on the stand and is cross-examining him, he is telling the witness that, see it my way. Is that not what happens in court? There's a lawyer here, he can tell me if that's not what lawyers do. You are telling your witness, see it my way. So if you hear the lawyer saying the same thing outside court, why is that suddenly a crime? That's what he does in court. So why is it a crime to do it outside court? I don't know. Maybe the lawyers in the audience can educate us. But as far as I'm aware, in court, you are trying to get the guy to see it your way. If you tell him to see it your way outside in exchange for the plea deal that he wants, not you, he wants, I don't see what's wrong there. The third question is, did he ask him to, did he suborn perjury? Did he ask him to lie to a judge? Now, on the face of it, that's exactly what it sounds like, isn't it? I mean, he's telling him, go and get an excuse duty and give to the judge. Jakpa says, hey, the last time I did that, even though I was seriously sick in hospital, the judge issued a bench warrant. So I don't want to do that this time. Did Jakpa say, I am not well? I am healthy. Sorry, did Jakpa say, I am not ill? I am healthy. Did we hear that in the conversation? I didn't. I don't know if you did, or if anybody else heard Jakpa saying that. I'm a healthy person. I'm not unwell. I'm not sick. And we also know that what we listen to is part of a full conversation. So the Attorney General's office claims that in that same conversation, but it didn't seem to make an appearance in the recording, Jakpa had already said that he's not been well. So when the Attorney General asked him to go and get excuse duty, he was simply saying that based on Jakpa's own claim that he's not been well. Okay. To which Jakpa responded, if I did that the last time, okay, and they got
there's one more issue out. Okay, go on.
If that's okay, I'm nearly done. So I'm saying that I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning everybody's version of what happened. They've given us a tape. I'm questioning it because they themselves admit that that's not the full conversation. They recorded some of it. So I'm questioning it. What did they leave out? I'm also questioning the Attorney General's side of the story. He claims that the person was not represented. For that one, we can check. We can go and check, and the answer will be one. We know the date and the time of that conversation. We can check whether in court he had a representative or not. He went to court the very next day, apparently, according to the conversation. So these things are verifiable. All I'm saying is, let's not just accept one side because that's what they say. Because Jakpa says, oh, if I say this, I'll be dishonest. That means that he was being asked to lie. No.
Okay. You haven't, I mean, you've just alluded to something I wanted to ask you about. This thing about, the tape being doctored, because that's the MPP's position. Since the tape came out, the MPP has come out. I mean, the NDC, did their press conference. The MPP has done their press conference. And in the MPP's press conference, they say that the tape is doctored. You've listened to the tape. Do you find that the tape is doctored?
I am in no position. I don't have any expertise to determine whether the tape is doctored or not. And in any case, when you say doctored, what do you mean? When the NPP said that was my first question in my head. What do you mean by doctored? Are you saying that things that were not said in the conversation have been introduced into the tape? Or are you saying that things that were said have been removed from the tape? Or are you saying that maybe things were said in a different order but they've been reordered to mean something else? What do you mean by doctored? Right? If, for example, you are suggesting that, oh, that's not the full conversation, maybe the Attorney General's recollection of the conversation includes other things. Well, I don't think Jakpa is claiming that that is the full conversation. That's the part he recorded.
Right.
Right? So someone needs to tell me what they mean by doctored. Because I don't have the expertise to listen to a tape and know whether it's been doctored or not. I don't.
Clearly the NPP does. So, I mean,
maybe they've let an expert listen. I don't
know. Maybe. My question to you, Kwame, and this is because Kojo has dealt with the sequence of events. So I'd want us to leave that. That has been done, And Kojo has also sort of taken the issues one by one as has been presented and questioned everything, one by one. I mean, and perhaps you, because you are a lawyer, right? When you put all these issues together, there is a saying that justice shouldn't only be done, I'm paraphrasing, justice must be seen to be done. I mean, this is something that everybody that has had some legal education has been taught. That holistically, it's not just about the letter of things, it's also about the spirit of things, the feeling of things, the perception of things, right? As I sit here, in spite of Kojo's questioning, none of these issues, whether I take them individually or I put them together, sits well with me. As I sit here, everything is wrong with it for me. everything. How do you feel about this? Holistically, as a Ghanaian, you have an Attorney General who is the leader of the bar. The justice of this country literally rests with him. Having conversations such as this, and I have no interest in verifying whether he was represented or not represented, or can we rise above, and not play around lines and just be above board when it comes to something as crucial as the dispensation of justice in a state? That's the question that I ask. What questions do you ask, Kwame?
Well, let me say a very good evening to our viewers and then to Kodo and then to Ivy. I think the last time we met was at Freedom Center. That's true.
Oh, I didn't even introduce Ivy. Ivy, forgive me. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, Ivy. You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's our brother from EIB.
In terms of putting out the facts, has been able to do a human's job. And I tend to agree with you largely when you say that, because he's dealt with the facts in terms of how things started. I do not need to rehash it. But there's one important aspect of the facts which I need to put out. It is important to understand why the tape was released or why the tape was mentioned. When a witness is in a witness box and the witness is answering questions posed to him by a lawyer, and the lawyer seeks to suggest that the witness is not being credible, the witness has every right to also question the credibility or the integrity of either the witness or the prosecutor. So Mr. Dakwa was alleging that you are hounding me, you are harassing me, you are creating the impression that I am lying in order to support A1, who is Mr. Atufos. And went on to say that if you continue on this tangent, I will open the Pandora's box. So the mention of Pandora's box was not an isolated event. It was an event which flowed from the line of questioning, which emanated from the quarters of the prosecution. And that is why he was pushed to make those statements. Now, the reason from where I sit, why the tape was released, was in respect of the responses which came out of the office of the Attorney General, particularly from the PR, Wilberforce, I think. And Wilberforce came out to rubbish the statement that was made by Mr. Jakwa in court, essentially saying that Mr. Jakwa has no iota of evidence. In fact, whatever he's saying is a lie. He is trying to simply malign the Attorney General. He is trying to create the impression that he has some evidence in order that, whatever he is wishing for will be granted. I.e. the plea bargain, which was explicitly explained very well by Mr. Kojo, right? So there was that conversation. Whether the conversation was before or after, I have no idea. But clearly there was a plea bargaining agreement that was meant to be reached by the parties. And obviously it fell on rocks. So that hostility existed, right? Now the response from Mr. Wilberforce is what triggered the release and the subsequent press conference held by the NDC. That if you claim that Mr. Dakwa lied under oath, then we are going to prove to you that indeed he had a recording. Now the question then becomes, what recording were they referring to? Was it a recording which, in the estimation of the Attorney General, that was recorded when the meeting was held between the Attorney General, Mr. Jakwa, and the said Supreme Court judge? Because there is this erroneous impression that the AG, well, I don't know whether it's erroneous or otherwise, but the impression was created that the AG was referring to a purported recording which had happened when the meeting was held in the Supreme Court's judge's house. So, in the estimation of AG, in the estimation of most of the MPP leaders, they thought that Mr. Dakpa perhaps had recorded that conversation when that meeting was held. But surprisingly, the conversation which was recorded was a phone conversation. Now, Kojo has asked a very vital question, which underpins the ethical actions, or rather omissions, of the Attorney General. Was he represented? Now, it begs the question whether the recording that we're referring to was the one that was done in the Supreme Court judge's house, or the phone conversation. I want to believe that if the recording was done in the Supreme Court judge's house, then maybe there was no representation, and that is why that meeting was organized, to maybe reach an agreement between the parties. But the information that we have is that the conversation that ensued between the Attorney General and Mr. Dakpa was done around 7:30 a.m. in the morning, when Mr. Dakpa, in the company of his lawyer, was on his way to court that very morning. And that is when the conversation was recorded, right? So clearly, the conversation about whether or not he was represented, I think, is neither here nor there, because clearly on the day when the recording had happened, he was represented. Now let's go to, and it's always important to advance your argument on the basis of what the law says. Now, if you look at the legal professional conduct and etiquette rules 2020, I don't want to look at all of them, but representation of a lawyer by a lawyer, I beg your pardon, is one of the rules which governs our profession. Now, if you read that one, it says, one, and with your permission, a lawyer is a representative of a client, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen with special responsibility for the delivery of quality justice. Right? Then two, a lawyer has the duty to a client as an advisor to provide the client with an informed understanding of the legal rights and obligations of the client, and to explain the practical implications of the legal rights and obligations. That's not what I'm looking for. Sorry. Competence. A lawyer shall provide competent representation to a client in the form of legal knowledge, skill, thoroughness, and preparation reasonably necessary for representation. Right? Then you come to courtesy. Yes. This is good. A lawyer shall, in the course of litigation, be courteous, civil, and act in good faith towards the court and persons with whom the lawyer deals. And so there are some critical maybe definitions that I want you to take with you. It says, must be courteous, civil, and act in good faith towards the court and persons with whom the lawyer deals. I.e.,
I think you're looking for 13.
Yeah, I'll go to 13, but these are very important, what's it called?
Tangentials?
No, not tangentials necessarily, but they are more like the foundations
right,
that I need to build upon. So, we are saying that Mr. Godfrey Dame, as a legal practitioner, as the head of the lawyers in this country, at all material times, must act in good faith, must be civil, and must act in good faith towards the court and persons with whom the lawyer deals, i.e. Mr. Atuforsen, i.e. Mr. Dakpa. Now, standard of conduct in the public service. Listen, a lawyer who holds a public office shall, in the discharge of official duties, adhere to the standard of conduct prescribed by the rules for a lawyer engaged in the practice of law. A lawyer who, scope of representation. I'm sorry, I'm just rushing through them. A lawyer shall not, this is what I'm looking for. Listen, a lawyer shall not counsel a client to engage or assist a client in conduct that the lawyer knows is criminal or fraudulent. Now, Mr. Kojo Yankson explains to us what transpired when the call was made. Mr. Attorney General Godfrey Dame, first of all, per the rules, is not allowed to place a call to a witness under no circumstance. That is a wrongdoing, and the law frowns on that. In fact, the rules frown on that. So he shouldn't have done that. But beyond even doing that, he goes ahead to want to coach a witness as to what to say in court in order that he can secure a conviction against Mr. Atufosa. This is very serious. So you are saying that if the Mr. Dakwa was a witness to the state, then of course he could have been coached. Then the Attorney General would say that, okay, I'm asking you to do X, Y, Z. Go and do X, Y, Z. You know, even
this is my opinion. What's your opinion?
Even that is wrong, but usually they coach, you know, witnesses as to what to say and what not to say, right? But for a witness who is not for the state, a witness who is actually defending his rights in court, to be told what to say in order that a conviction will be procured or secured against Mr. Atufosa was a clear violation of the rules that governs the legal profession. And this thing is worrying me. Hold on 1 second. So that's what the 9 says, scope of representation. Then 2, a lawyer may discuss the legal consequences of a proposed course of conduct with a client and may counsel or assist a client to make an effort in good faith to determine the validity, scope, meaning, or application of the law. This is different. This is, you know, when someone has a representation.
That's you and your client.
Absolutely. Now, communication with the client. No. So let's go to communication with other person. A lawyer shall not, in the course of professional practice, send correspondence or communicate orally with another lawyer or any other person in a manner that is abusive, offensive, or inconsistent with proper conduct of a professional communication from a lawyer, right? Then 2, a lawyer shall answer with, so communication with a represented person. Listen. So the other one is even with a lawyer, but with a represented person. That's 13. 1, a lawyer shall not approach, communicate, or deal with a represented person on a matter or attempt to negotiate or compromise a matter directly with a represented person, except through or with the consent of the lawyer of that represented person. So it begs the question, the call that was placed to Mr. Dakwa, who clearly, at the time when the conversation had ensued, was represented, was a clear violation of the rules that governs the legal profession. Simpliciter.
But just so we don't get into an argument of this representation or not represented, which is why I want to lift the conversation above that issue. For me, as the Attorney General, you know, dealing with a serious issue such as this one, the penalty for which somebody is going to lose their freedoms, is not just one of those cases. This is a very serious issue with very dire consequences for everybody involved and for the country. For me, it's not a question of is he represented today, right now, or not, or was he represented? I would live above board. I would myself, in for want of a better word, executing a case like this, not want to play games. So for me, that issue about whether he was represented that morning or not, and Kami, you say he was represented, Kojo says he was not represented.
No, I didn't say that.
You say you don't know, we should go and find out that he was not.
Yes.
Okay, so Kojo, you are referencing that Attorney General's office. Okay. So back to what I was saying.
Yeah.
Whether he was or he was not, for me, is not the issue.
It's about rules. It's about rules.
That is the
rules. The rules that we operate with.
Let me make the point, gentlemen. The point is that, and that point has just been made here. It's possible for him not to have been represented on day 8, and for him to be represented on day 13. That's Why would you want to take chances?
What do you mean by take chances?
Why would you want to take chances with something like that? Why not just play within the rules? If the rule says it's wrong
You just try.
Don't communicate with him.
That's not what the rule says.
Don't communicate with the client. Communicate with your client.
That's not what the rule says.
Is he your client?
No, that is not what the rule says, Amma.
What I'm trying to say is that if you read 13, it specifically states that if the other party is not represented, electoral, that's what it means. If the other party is not represented by a lawyer, you may have a conversation. But if the other party is represented by a lawyer, then you have to have a conversation with the other party through their lawyers, unless
or with the consent of the lawyer.
Yes, unless his lawyer agrees that you have a conversation with the witness. That's what it says, right? But in this case, you go ahead and have a conversation with the witness without the approval of his lawyer. That is where the problem is. And for me, that's the whole of it, with the greatest of respect, I beg you. And that is the beginning of the problem. So even beyond the content of the conversation is also the violation of the rules which governs our profession, right? That you must not. Now, what makes it worse is also the content of it. So beyond the first breach is also the subsequent breaches flowing from the first breach. That is also very crucial. That you, the Attorney General, you are admonishing a witness to go to court and perjure himself, to go and lie to court, to the judge, that he's unwell. So, he's bringing an excuse duty just so you can go on your travel and come back and be part of the suit. That is what. So it is a clear violation. Now you see, one thing that we must also understand, Amma, is that Mr. Jakpa is saying that, look, I know that I am standing trial, and I also know that Mr. Atuforsen is also standing trial. So whatever information I put out there may invariably have an effect on the decision of the court. So I'm minded by it. I don't want to be dishonest with myself and to the court. So I have to state the facts as they are. And you could clearly hear the Attorney General trying to convince him to agree to what he is saying in order that he will go and lie in court. That is a very serious offense. And for me, I find it very strange that people are still defending that. Because look, the one office that is supposed to protect the rights and obligations and the freedoms and the justice of this country is the office of the Attorney General, because he is not just the office of he's not just representing the office, but he's also the Minister for Justice. And if you are the Minister for Justice, you are not the Minister for Justice in relation to only prosecutions, but you must also try as much as possible and defend the rights of people, even the accused persons. No, now you are saying that innocent until proven guilty is guilty until proven innocent. That is what you are saying. I think it's wrong by every stretch of the of imagination. It is very wrong, and we must all condemn the actions of the Attorney General, and he must resign honorably. Look, people are saying that, if this was in any other jurisdiction, this guy would have been prosecuted. He would have been facing prosecution by now, because you are circumventing and flagrantly violating the law with such impunity and condescension, and we should sit down and just watch you. It's not right. It's not right.
You make a brilliant point, Kwame. You make a succinctly put. This issue about being the Minister of Justice, where justice means all sides of the divide, all sides of the divide. And if my Minister of Justice is so himself engulfed in an issue when no, I become it. No.
Well,
no.
So
no, Kojino.
So we are dealing with politics here.
Yes.
We're dealing with legalities and we are dealing with politics.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the office we've created for ourselves.
Right.
By adding the office of the Attorney General to that of a Minister of Justice.
Right.
So we are not just dealing with the legal advisor to the executive or to the president or to the state. We are dealing with the president appointee as well, who is a minister of state. And that's how come we are where we are today, where the NDC and the people who believe the narrative of the NDC, together with Mr. Japan, are thinking that he is an attorney general who is hell-bent on sending our minority leader to the jail. It doesn't matter whose ox is God. And he's willing to go to every extent to get that to happen. I've heard a counter-argument about the AG closing his case, and that the state's case is closed and it's watertight. From the beginning, the prima facie case had been established. Atoforsen and then Japa, when they filed a case of submission of no case, the judge rejected that and admitted that indeed the state had been able to establish beyond reasonable doubt that there are questions to be answered. It is in the answering of the questions that will give the judge a sense of direction as to what judgment he should deliver. And so the argument that Governor Dami, the Attorney General, didn't need anybody to assist him in the case falls flat. So that one must be dealt with. The other one is the fact that what we are doing today or now is fighting in the court of public opinion.
Absolutely.
And it matters. It's not just what, and I understand what the judge said 2 days ago when the case was called, that she's in essence shutting her mind to whatever is happening in the public domain, and that the party should not scandalize her court. And yes, nonetheless, she took issues with some of the public comments relative to this, because she knows that she has been put in a very difficult position. And honestly, I don't envy her. Regardless of what judgment she returns, there are questions that will be asked, legitimate questions, so to speak. Back to Governor Dami. I know, and you know, he's going nowhere. I know, and you know, and I know viewers know that the president is not going to sack him. What I think should be of concern to Governor Dami is the seeming neutral legal minds who all agree that there's something wrong with what he's done. And they think that there is an extent he went that he ought not to have gone there.
Never.
But then again, you see a minister, not an attorney general, in that regard. Let's come to the plea bargain. I honestly believe that when Japa made that request, he opened himself up to be asked to give something. And it happens everywhere, in every religion. Give something. So, are you willing to sacrifice somebody for your own freedom? When we go to that point, where if you talk about the Attorney General trying to quote Japa, it's because the Attorney General, from even the meeting that took place in the House of the Justice of the Supreme Court, who sought to ask how far with the plea bargain application, the Attorney General is minded by that and say, if you want your freedom, then here is what is on the table. If he did it when the gentleman Japa had a lawyer, obviously it's against the rules of engagement. That question ought to be asked and that answer ought to be provided. Because I'm equally informed that Tadio Sorry, as at the time this phone call had been placed, is a lawyer or was a lawyer for Richard Japa. If that is the case, then indeed it's either the Attorney General didn't know because Japa had changed lawyers, to be honest. He had
Back to my issue, isn't it? Why play within those muddy waters?
Yeah, he had changed
Why
lawyers.
play within those muddy waters? That's
Yes.
my question.
I get you.
Why play within those muddy waters?
But then again, you look at it from this angle too. So, Attorney General succeeds in jailing Atoforsen, minority leader. What best of a trophy would an Attorney General have than that? And here again, Kofi Dami, the politician. So if there is anything that I can do, because mind you, on the tape, he asked the question, how do I know you are not recording me? On the tape. Kofi Dami asked that, knowing very well that there was a possibility that he was being recorded. You see, so yes, the issues are many, ethical issues, political issues, and yes, there are questions that ought to be asked. Like I said, Governor Dami will not come out of this unscathed. No, his integrity is on the line. I insist he will go nowhere, but these lingering questions will linger on. Mind you, the defense, specifically the legal team for Atuforsen, have filed some processes in the court. First of all, stay of proceedings, and we told that based on the testimony of Jakpa in open court, mind you, not based on leaked audio tapes, based on the testimony that the Attorney General was seeking to coerce him to throw defense let's just say Atuforsen under the bus, and the subsequent communications and then the meetings and what have you, the legal team of Atuforsen filed some applications. In essence, what they are looking for is a mistrial, so to speak, and that the AG and the state prosecutors have engaged in some unethical behavior. If you even procure evidence illegally, that would be the basis for the person you are prosecuting to be freed. Even if the person is in jail, the case could be brought back and that individual can be set free, and you are then prohibited from even subsequently going ahead to prosecute that same person on the same offense. So those things happen in other jurisdictions, and I'm not sure Ghana is different from that. And so back to the case, I think that General Legal Counsel should come in here. There is a need for some sort of investigation, if not for punitive measures today, for lessons to be learned moving forward. I've heard some legal arguments to the extent that all these processes that we are talking about, the Attorney General is not subjective to them, and that the Attorney General, who is the leader of the bar, is above even being dragged before the General Legal Counsel.
The Attorney General is a member of the General Legal Council.
I get the point. So there are some legal arguments in that instance that you cannot even send him to the General Legal Council. So I will even love that tested as well. So at least there's a precedent as to what should be done, what ought to be done, and what we cannot do. But once again, like I said, there's politics and it's gone wrong. Let's see how it pans out. I still don't agree.
Let's see how it pans out. I love what you say about, learning from all of these processes, because some of these issues then become, learning points for all of us to see our weekly. Kojo, I know you have something to say.
Yeah, something very quickly. I like what you're saying about learning points. I'm at the very least, even if by the end of this conversation we still don't agree with each other, hopefully anyone watching or listening, even if you disagree, will learn something. And I think this is important. Kwame, highlighted it. This is point number 13 under the legal professional conduct and etiquette rules 2020 of and it says a lawyer shall not, I'm just repeating it quickly, Kwame read it, a lawyer shall not A, approach, communicate or deal with a represented person. That is who a lawyer shall not approach, communicate or deal with on a matter, or B, attempt to negotiate, compromise a matter directly with, again, a represented person, except through or with the consent of the lawyer of that represented person. So it's not saying that a lawyer cannot talk to the other side. Let's get that right. So when a lawyer speaks to the other side, he's not breaking any rules. He's not in muddy waters. He's not taking any risk. It is normal for a lawyer to speak to the other side. But the rules say there's a way of doing it. If you are speaking to the represented person, there are only certain conditions under which you can do that. One, his lawyer must be there, or his lawyer must consent to you having that conversation. Right? This is to ensure that a person who has hired a lawyer gets the benefit of his lawyer's guidance and protection. Right? So as long as he's a represented person, if the Attorney General spoke to him while he was a represented person, the Attorney General has to explain that to the people of Ghana. Okay, that is something we all agree on. But if he was not a represented person, let's please put that aside. Let's not turn it into politics. Let's not suggest that, as Attorney General speaking to the other side is so. It's not wrong. Let's educate. It's not wrong for a lawyer to speak to the other side, as long as you do it correctly. The only question here is, did he do it correctly or not. And I'm saying, thankfully.
No, the only question is, was he represented?
Thank you. Good. Was he represented at the time this communication happened or not? And I'm saying, thankfully, it's a verifiable fact. We don't need to guess. We don't need to take one side or the other. We can check. So until we check, let's not even argue. Let's not even accuse anyone of wrongdoing. Let's wait. Once we check and we know, then we know how to deal with this matter. But just to wrap on this issue, you see, this question of whether or not the Attorney General asked him to lie is important, right? Now, in the phone call that we listened to, or the part of the phone call that we listened to, did anyone hear the Attorney General saying, I expect you to lie?
That's not how people normally ask other people to lie.
Please, I want to go step by step.
That's not how it's done.
I want to
normally
go
don't
step
say, I'm
by
about
step.
to ask you to lie.
I want to go step by step. Okay, thank you. I want to go step by step. So we can all agree that we didn't hear him say, I need you to lie.
We couldn't have heard that.
Okay. Did we hear him say, I need you to say or give false testimony in court?
Same thing.
So we didn't hear that either.
We couldn't have.
Good. So what is it that we heard that convinced us that the Attorney General has asked someone to lie?
He said, go and bring medical, excuse duty.
Very good. So that is the lie we are talking about.
So that we can extend the process.
So that is the lie we are talking about.
Okay. If you take it this way, then it will be simple.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean lie.
Do it my way.
That means do it my way.
In essence,
but
the gentleman disagrees and goes ahead to say that if I do it that way, I'll be dishonest.
I will be dishonest.
So it is the gentleman's view that if he does it that way, he will be dishonest. Please, why have we all decided that the gentleman is the one who knows best about what is honest and what is dishonest?
We are talking about.
No, he's a party to the case.
Court, it is his view we need. It is his testimony. He's not going to court to go and give the AG's view on an issue.
In the case.
Then the AG would be the only testimony, the one to give testimony in the issue.
There are two parties in the case. He is one of the two parties in this case, right? He is one of the two parties. The Attorney General is the other. They have opposing views. He wants a deal. The Attorney General says, if you want a deal, then you better come to my side. That is not wrong.
It is wrong.
It is absolutely not wrong.
Is the how?
It is absolutely not wrong.
He's a witness. He's a witness. Why is he a witness?
The Attorney General says, if you want, I'm answering you. The Attorney General says, if you want a deal from me, deal meaning that I'm not going to prosecute you and send you to jail. In exchange for that, you have to become my witness. That is a plea deal. You have to become my witness against someone else.
Yes.
That there's nothing wrong with that. That is the basis of a plea bargain.
Okay, the gentleman says, if I do that, I will be dishonest.
That is his view.
Exactly. And it's his view that matters.
We cannot all decide that we all accept Jakpa's view. Why?
Kojo, it is his view that is important.
No, it is
not your view or my view.
I am saying
in this instance.
Thank you. Why is
he is the witness, Kojo, not you.
His position on the law they are discussing is A. The Attorney General's position on the law they are discussing is B. Those positions oppose. Doesn't mean that one is a lie and one is the truth. That's not how it happens. When you go to court, it doesn't mean that the two parties, one is lying and one is telling the truth. That's not how it works.
Give your side, Kojo.
But he has given his.
So the man wants to give his side.
He wants to give his side. That doesn't mean he's being asked to lie.
You see, I hope that
it doesn't mean he's being asked.
We will all appreciate that in justice we will hear people's real sides.
We don't want to misinform people.
So let's not do that.
So let's not tell people that.
Let's not do that.
So let's not tell people that if a prosecutor asks a witness that I need you to become my witness, he's lying.
But
he's asking him to lie.
Could you adjust your mind to what happened in Open?
No.
Can I
take these matters in isolation?
That's what I keep telling him.
I'm nearly done.
Sorry, let him be nearly done. Could you please be nearly done?
Thank you very much. I'll wrap up right now. So the only person we hear in that conversation talking about lie is Japa. He is the one who thinks that if he becomes the prosecutor's witness, he will be lying. That's his view. And in fact, when he said that, the Attorney General said, okay. That's what the Attorney General said in the conversation we all listened to. He said, okay, if that's your view, okay. Now let's talk about the, excuse duty. If Japa is not sick and the Attorney General asks him to go for excuse duty, that means the Attorney General is asking Japa to commit perjury. If Japa is not sick, if Japa is sick and the Attorney General asks him to go for excuse duty, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Because that's what he needs, excuse duty, if he's sick.
Okay.
So the only thing that will determine whether or not the Attorney General was asking him to is this suborn perjury or not, is whether Japa was sick
or not sick. Okay. Again, the only person to determine that would be Japa.
Right. Or if we can listen to the whole phone call.
First of all, I think we are all under this impression that there's another tape, or there's an elongated version of the tape.
We are told there's a 26 minutes.
There's no 26 minutes, Ahmad. The tape is 16 minutes. And if any other person has any other tape, contrary to what we have seen or we've heard, they should provide it. And I think that it has been demonstrated by everybody, but there's no other tape. In fact, if the MPP had any other tape, they would have released it by now.
Sorry to catch you, but if there's another tape, that's another tape. This is a 16-minute tape. This is a whole tape on its own.
So there's no need to compare the two. There's no other tape.
This is a tape. That's that tape.
Kojo is an accomplished journalist. He knows when or if a tape is doctored.
I don't, please. Clearly. I don't have that expertise. Nobody has trained me to identify doctored tape. I don't know, please.
So when you play the voice, the interviews granted to people, you don't know whether or not the interview is doctored.
How will I know unless an expert tells me?
I
have never said that I know when a tape is doctored.
Can you make your point?
So I am telling Kojo, if he doesn't know, that this particular tape was not doctored. Because if you say something is doctored, then it means that you have a version that is not doctored that you want to produce. Doctored where? What was cut from where and put where? What was erased? What was added?
No, even me, I want to know.
So, I don't know what they mean by the tape was doctored. Now let's talk about plea bargaining and what it is and the effect of it. And whether or not the plea bargaining agreement was reached, because the effect of the conversation, okay, and whether or not the AG was right to make those pronouncements is dependent on whether or not the plea bargaining agreement had concluded. Because that's what Kojo is seeking to say, that there was a certain plea bargaining. On the basis of that, the AG has a right to co-opt the witness onto his side, right? What is plea bargaining agreement? It's just a negotiation between the prosecution and the accused. In fact, usually it is engineered by the defense or the accused person. That, I want to bargain with you so that I will plead guilty to the offense, and so that you can be lenient with me. That's essentially what it is, right? When they were having the conversation, the man had not pled guilty to any offense, to any charge. So there couldn't have been any plea bargaining agreement. Because if he had then said, okay, I'm guilty of the offense, okay,
which would be the plea,
then you could have actually now concluded that because the man says he's guilty of the offense, then you can have a discussion with him so that you can bring him to your side. Right. There's no evidence to suggest that the man decided to plead guilty. In fact, all this thing that is being said, of course, there was an application for plea bargain and things like that, but it was not conclusive. All right? Nothing had concluded.
Could you let him
So
speak? I'll give you a section.
you can't say that. So now, secondly, look, Amma, we know for a fact, because the man is saying that at the time when you placed the call to me, I had a representation. So we know for a fact that there was a clear violation of the rules which governs the legal profession. Now, we also do know for a fact that if you, okay, advise somebody to do a wrong, and the person decides not to do a wrong, you, the person providing the advice, okay, if the person providing that has committed an offense, if the person had executed the act, you cannot be exonerated because you are the one who provided counsel and advice to the person to commit the wrong. So the fact that you asked the gentleman to go for an excuse duty, and the person said, but I can't do that, I will be dishonest to the court, or I can't do that, or the last time when I did that, I had a problem with the judge and things like that, and on the basis of that refused to do it, doesn't mean that you, the AG, who provided the counsel and advice, is not in the wrong. You are in the wrong. If the person had done that, for instance, he had gone for he had gone for excuse duty, then when they are charging you for the offense, say conspiracy, both of you conspired. You agreed to act together with a common purpose to go and deceive the court. So you initiated the conversation. The person simply said, I don't want to do it. So what do you mean by was he providing an advice? Who would openly tell you that I want you to go and lie to the court? Of course. Nobody will say, please go and take excuse duty so that you can go and lie to the court that you are sick, even though you are not sick. And we don't have the benefit of any other tape. The tape that we have, on the basis of which we are all advancing this argument, is the tape that is out there. And on that tape, I did not hear Mr. Jakpa say he was sick. Mr. Jakpa on that tape never said he was sick. It is the AG who wanted the case postponed so that he would be able to be a party, he would partake in that process when he returns from his visit. So he was being even selfish. He was the one who was being selfish.
Not acting in the interest
Not
of the
acting
court.
in the interest
if we are supposed to use the
of
word
justice.
within the etiquette.
Not acting in the interest
provided.
of justice.
Yes.
Now, listen, I've heard the press conference that was held by the MPP. Again, emptiness. Usual rhetorics. No substance. And the what's it called? The report put out by what's the newspaper? Daily Guide. In one breath, you recall, in the beginning, they said AG had never contacted Mr. Jakpa. Do you remember?
Yeah, there were lots of denials.
The deputy AG issued a statement. In fact, no, I listened to Wilberforce on Joy, Kojo's radio station, where he intimated, without any equivocation, that the AG had never contacted Mr. Jakpa.
Right.
And that it was Mr. Jakpa who had initiated the conversation. Now, in a sharp response by the NDC, they put out the WhatsApp messages. And clearly from the WhatsApp message, you can tell who initiated the conversation, who wanted who to do what. So this is not different from that which was stated by Mr. Jakpa in open court. And bear in mind, this is captured on record. And Mr. Jakpa made these statements under oath.
Right.
And the rules says that if you are under oath, you cannot.
I don't think we have enough time to go with any of the other issues. We are going to spend the whole show on one issue.
Well, it's an important issue.
Okay, so Alex.
Yeah, before
Are you okay?
I'll be brief. Before
You'll be brief, then you can come in. Yes.
Talking about the doctrine or otherwise of the tape. All I'm always the word used was editing.
Right.
You see, because when you use the word doctrine, it could lose, first of all, criminality.
Right.
You've taken there from somewhere, from another place, dummy from another, then you join them to form meaning out of something that never even exists. That's doctrine. We, of course, work with radio stations and television stations. We do editing. I have a recording of, say, 10 minutes. I don't need all the 10 minutes. I need just 5 minutes. I cut the 5 minutes and use it. It's not doctrine. It's called editing. I've engaged, of course, the MPP, the AG's team as well. And the argument is that there were things that the AG said that have not been reflected in the audio that is in circulation or
bring
released by the NDC.
They should bring
Unfortunately, they are unable to produce DS because
Produce it.
they didn't go with the same mindset that Richard Japa went with by recording or taping the conversation. Because the AG felt, and by the way, there's an admission that the gentleman on the other side of the recording is Godfrey Boadami. So that one, they are not ifs and buts. Nobody's saying that
He's
the
not the
gentleman
one.
who was in the conversation with Richard Japa was not Godfrey Boadami.
I hope you are alone. I hope you are alone. I hope no one is recording.
That one has been established. But then, of course, I didn't ask that. Okay, you might not have a recording, but how about you tell us what the AG said that has not been captured on this tape? Reproduce it. Let us know, because if the memory of the AG can serve him right, then he will be able to tell us. So the bit about the doctrine is just because the NPP believes that Godfrey Boadami said things that will be in his favor today if they come out. That might not be in the favor of Richard Jakpa if they come out. That's how come Jakpa or the NDC has decided to take them out of this committee. Because I equally heard that the tape was supposed to be 26 minutes. The one we have seen is 16 minutes 2 seconds, right? So definitely something might be missing. But of course, Kojo is telling us that.
No, Kojo.
He's telling us that there's nothing elsewhere. So it's just the 16 minutes that we have to deal with. That's one. The other one is before the NPP held their press conference, now the NDC, there was a story, and I'm not sure people are paying attention to that story. It came from Asase Radio, and I think that story was just Godfrey Boadami speaking, and that was the first time that we got to know about the meeting involving the Supreme Court justice, because the premise was that whatever tape that was going to come out is from that meeting. So people were even waiting with bated breath to hear what the said justice of the Supreme Court said.
And it was rather a phone recording.
Right. And then it ends up being a phone call. Now the explanation is that the phone call was subsequent to the meeting that took place in the house of the Justice of the Supreme Court. And that's how come Godfrey Boadami even became softer in listening to Richard Jakpa. That, okay, so now I've been impressed upon to listen to you. This is what I want you to do for me. If you do it, then it will be easier for me to help you. Mind you, the statement, the story that came from Asase said, Godfrey Boadami had already told Richard Jakpa that he's not a person of interest, and that is the state actors who are of interest to government as far as this prosecution is concerned, and it's their action and inaction that has occasioned the financial loss to the state. So, like I said, if you look at this, and mind you, as I speak right now, the lawyers of Dr. Kesela Tofosi, which I have right now, they have applied that there must be a live telecast for this particular case, even though this is a criminal case. Usually we hear of live telecast for cases before the Supreme Court, the Apex Court of the Land. But that application has been filed as we speak this evening. Now, it will be interesting to know as to whether this will be granted by the Chief Justice. And as to whether the Attorney General will support this request. Because with the anti-gay bill issues, the Attorney General was the one who applied. And he explained why. That many a times the arguments advanced in court will be misrepresented and people will be tagged wrongly. And that's how come he pleaded with the Chief Justice to grant
Public interest.
Granted. Hopefully this one too, even though it's a criminal case,
Public interest.
that request will be granted.
Yeah.
Public interest. Public interest. Public interest. Public interest. Could you briefly?
Very quickly, yeah. So, you know, I know you will relate to this because we are in the same profession, right? All of us, actually, same profession. Whenever someone brings a story to you, your first question is who benefits from this, right? Whose interest is served? Now, that heavily influences what you do with this story. So, for example, if you come from a media house that is maybe aligned with one side, political side or the other, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. CNN is aligned. Fox News, they are aligned. So there's nothing wrong with that. So if the story comes and it favors a side that you are aligned with, you might think, oh, that's great. Then let's really push this story. If it doesn't favor the side that you are aligned with, but you are still professional, you can see that there is some merit in the story. You will still do it anyway. Just that you may not give it the same amount of prominence that you would give to one that, you know, that, and these things are normal, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are, say, a BBC or a Joy FM, where we are trying not to align with anybody, then it doesn't matter whose side is promoted by the story. We are just interested in making sure we are not going to promote one side or the other. We just want the facts. Why am I saying all of this? First of all, because I know you will all relate and understand what I'm talking about. But secondly, because that is happening with this story. There are interests on both sides. So for me, my training kicks in that I can't promote one person's interest over the other. I must question everything. So I listen to the tape, I hear Jakpa saying this. I can't just assume that because Jakpa said it, it's true. Or I hear the Attorney General's office claiming this. I can't just assume that because it's the Attorney General's office, so it's true. I can't. I can only go with what is verifiable. What is verifiable? Okay? So, Kwame says, in order for a plea deal to be discussed between the two parties, the deal must already be made. Right? How does it get made if you don't discuss it? How do you arrive at a deal without discussing it?
My response was not in relation to that. My response was what you said, that if because of the plea bargain, he was trying to convince the other person to be the witness of the prosecution. I'm saying that you can only convince the person if he had already agreed to something.
We are actually talking about the same thing.
So
we are actually talking about the same thing, because my point is this. A deal is about two people getting what they want. What does Jakpa want? To not go to jail.
Yeah, but you deal with a lawyer.
Now you are making a separate point.
I am not making a separate point.
I am referring to what you said, that such a conversation would only be appropriate, whether with or without a lawyer, would only be appropriate after a deal is struck. I'm saying that can be. Because you have to strike the deal first. You have to discuss the terms of the deal. You have to say, I want you to do this in exchange for what you want. And you must agree before you have a deal. That's the nature of deals.
Is that what is in the audio? That's not that's not the content of the audio.
The content of the audio is Dame saying, and in fact, we even heard him saying, if you are going to get this deal, you must do it my way. Okay. You actually hear him saying that, which means that it is a discussion of the deal.
Okay, I'm looking at time.
Let me make my final point here. You see, the question of whether or not Dame was asking Jakpa to lie, maybe there's someone who can answer it. Because you know, in this conversation, there were numerous references to the earlier meeting or meetings at the home of the Supreme Court judge. Right? And in this conversation, all we hear Dame say is, if you're going to get this deal, you have to do it my way. But we don't hear him say what his way is. Like, I want you to do A, B, C, or I want you to say A, B, C. For us to now be able to determine that, okay, what Dame wants him to do is to lie. Right? We don't have the content of what Dame wants. All we know is that Dame wants him to do it his way. That's all we know. And we know Jakpa's reaction to that.
Right, dishonesty.
So the question is, what did Dame want? And I'm saying there might be someone who can tell us. And that would most likely be the Supreme Court judge, in whose presence this deal was probably discussed.
Okay.
So I know that the Supreme Court judge must be feeling quite bad that this matter that he tried to resolve has turned into a national scandal. But at this point, maybe he needs to consider speaking up.
Okay.
So that this thing can be clarified.
Okay. Hopefully, not hopefully. I know that in an ongoing story, which is what this is, more facts will come out, and we would have more knowledge on the issue, and we'll be here again to have those conversations as those issues, unravel. I don't know if I should say I'm happy all of this is happening, because I find it's very murky. That word that you don't like again, very murky. And I wish that we had played, above board with this one. I honestly feel that way. I want us to move straightly to SSNIT, the sale of these SSNIT hotels. We have two issues to deal with, and of course the dam issue. So can we be fast with it?
Yeah.
So 6 hotels, conflicts of interest. We are told that a certain member of cabinet, and my only interest in this is one, and it's a point that the Honorable Samuel Blackwa makes. His point is this, that the reason why we vote a government, and subsequently its people, its appointees, is so that they can govern the state, they can manage our resources. So if people are experts in individual fields, our expectation is that they bring all of these expertise, together, and they manage our resources to the benefit of the state. Now, he finds it problematic that somebody who sits in cabinet would have great and wonderful ideas as to how to run SSNIT, and would keep all of that to himself and say, unless SSNIT sells its access to my person, I will keep my knowledge to myself. That's problematic for me. That's the meat of this conversation. What's your issue with all of this?
Well, I'm sure the simple answer to that would be that SSNIT doesn't fall under agriculture. Yes.
That's a good one.
Yes, but on the more serious note, it brings to fore how we have run down our state institutions, especially our state-owned enterprises. And sometimes you dare say we do that deliberately. At the point we were here touting the progress GIHOC, for instance, had made, and the visibility that it had brought. And now GIHOC is equally on its knees. And I was speaking to the ranking member for Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State-owned Enterprises, Dr. Kamelonko, who asked a very interesting question, that who sells alcohols and run at a loss? Because when people are happy, they are drinking. When they are sad, they are drinking. So regardless, you are supposed to be making profit. But that is the status of GIHOC as we speak. There are SSNIT hotels. Indeed, it's a fact that some of them are not doing well. It's a fact. But equally a fact in there that out of the 4 hotels, some of them are doing well.
Very well.
Dividends.
Very well.
To SSNIT. So if you are selling, why include the hen that lays the golden egg, so to speak? Or as a package. There was a subsequent statement that was released by SSNIT that is diversifying, selling 60% of its stake just to reinvest in the same SSNIT hotels. Up until now, I've not had clarity from SSNIT as to how that even works. That you are selling your stake in some hotels, and you are telling the public that that's to re-inject that money into them. You are diluting your stake in there, so to re-inject
after you sold the stake.
Not even re-inject in what? The optics, to be honest, do not look good. That a minister of state, a cabinet minister, he's a businessman as well, has a company, and that company is acquiring stake of another government entity, and that government entity will then become the property of that private business. For the optics, it doesn't look good. And when you engage political analysts, governance analysts, they tell you that yes, face value, bad. SSNIT then tells us that they presented the best, Rock City presented the best out of the bids. Okay. Did Brian Champon disclose his interest from the word go in Rock City before putting in the bid? Because if he does, the issue of conflict of interest can then be waived.
Sorry to catch you, but the Honorable Okudata Blackwell explains. I'm saying all of this because he's been on the show. He was here on Friday to explain the issues one by one. He says that actually when the transaction started, Rock City did not exist.
Exactly. And that was in 2018 thereabout.
Right.
Rock City started business in 2019.
November 2019.
Exactly.
So it did not exist.
Exactly. So he asked that question. Now you also look at even the capacity of that private business, right, as compared to, say, Labadi Beach Hotel, that has been in existence for well over 30 years
and pays more dividend.
So would it not have been prudent, for instance, for SSNIT to say that we are giving the management of the other hotels that are not doing so well, to say Labadi Beach Hotel, which is equally state-owned, to run because they are doing a fairly good job and returning good money on investment. Again, there's a big gap, and I've heard the former Director General for SSNIT make argument as to why SSNIT needs to diversify, because we keep hammering management of SSNIT for some of these bad portfolios of investment.
Which of them? Would that be the Mr. Ernest
Thompson? Yes,
right.
I've heard him.
Because he's against the sale.
Yes, I get that, and I get the general argument about SSNIT needing to cut its losses. But if we are doing that, be mindful of what you sell, but who you sell to is equally important. I heard Brian Champon himself speak to Kojo. Even though Kojo will say that they were speaking to each other, Brian and then
that's very interesting, I have to say.
We were speaking to each other. Yes, that he's a non-executive member.
He was the moderator.
Yes.
He was the moderator.
Yes.
When he's always there, so please, what do you have to say?
That was great. That was good listening to.
Yes.
Right.
So we got to hear the mindset of Brian Champon. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with this. I've equally engaged some people even within government who are a bit apprehensive about this. And again, we're in an election year.
Murky.
There is always, and it's a very easy tag to
this Murky is allowed.
State capture. And we've heard, I'm sure, I don't even remember how many times I've heard that word, state capture.
Murky, absolutely murky.
I don't remember how many times I've heard that word, state capture. And I'm completely in my engagement with him as well.
Right.
In about 3 minutes of the engagement, he will still mention state capture. So it will be the last thing that as a government, as a party, you want in an election year, and it's understandable. That's how the president has, for instance, directed that the management of SSNIT should meet TUC. By the way, which I see a lot of hypocrisy from TUC. TUC actually has 2 people sitting on the board of SSNIT, and they took this decision with them.
4 people.
4. Great. I was even magnanimous with the number. So 4. What did they return to tell their bosses about these deals when they were being hatched or cooked? And all of a sudden, TUC is behaving as if all they are like us. We only heard of it when Ablakwa released these documents. And unfortunately, for this, TUC, yes, kudos for coming in and giving your orders and what have you. But your people who are your representatives at the SSNIT board have failed you, and you should have questions for them to answer. Same with PURC. TUC will have members on the board. Something happens and all of a sudden TUC is behaving as if it's like a surprise for them. That must stop. But because we don't have much time, I think what the remedial measures are good. The president saying that SSNIT must meet TUC, let them trash it out. Hopefully, trashing it out will not mean that they've given this deal a twin bill of health. Because like I said, on the face value, it doesn't look good that a cabinet minister will have his company take over assets of the state, so to speak. Because if you don't take care, in the near future, we will not have anything to call as belonging to the state. If Nkrumah has started selling them, when you put them up, sell them off, what will we have today? The argument that the state has no business doing business, I'm sure the evidence is clear that it's not a very logical argument. The state has every business engaging in a business that's profitable and in the interest of all of us. The state farms that we have run down, if they are active, I'm not sure we'll be buying 4 tomatoes at 10 cedis today.
20 cedis in some places. Okay. 20 cedis in some places. Yeah, I do go to the market. Yeah.
Yes.
So IB says face value is wrong. I say face value, stomach value, leg value, every value is wrong.
Anatomical value.
Anatomical value is wrong. This is another no for me.
All right. I'll say only 2 things. First, I'll say what's wrong with the deal, and I'll talk about what the government or the president has done about it. So very quickly. So what's wrong with the deal? 2 things are wrong with the deal. First, the question of should we be selling these hotels, And secondly, should we be selling them to Brian Achampong? Right? For me, those are the two issues. Okay, so issue one, should we be selling these hotels? And we talked about it here on this show just last week. We've talked about it. Should we be selling these hotels? First of all, the fact that we are dealing with them all as if they are one product is a problem. There are 4 separate hotels with 4 separate balance sheets, 4 separate financial situations. You don't sell them all as one product. Would it even make us a bit more money if we were to sell them to separate people? This bid that has been put in by one hotel to buy SSNIT's interest in all 4, that bid, how much money will it make for SSNIT? And if you compare it to what SSNIT may make from owning these hotels, are we better off? Are we making a good decision for pensioners in terms of the investment of their money? Okay, couple of things. First of all, this deal was not actually struck by the current board. It was the board that was in place before this one that made the decision to sell off the 6 hotels, which is now 4. We've reduced it to 4. But the decision originally to sell the 6 was made by the previous board. And I've heard one of them, Mr. Achampong, who represents Labour, talk about why they made this decision. And he explains that, look, those hotels were being managed badly, all of them. They brought in a management company to manage Labadi Beach Hotel. This was actually done by the previous government. And this company turned things around. They even had their contract renewed. Now, under the renewed contract, SSNIT would have had to pay them about $3 million a year to manage the hotel. In fact, I think they had wanted to add some other hotels to it. About $3 million a year. While this was happening to the one hotel that was profitable, the other ones that were not profitable, and that includes La Palma, Buzia Beach, Elmina Beach Resort, they were losing money hand over fist, bringing in nothing, no dividends, unable to even pay their staff, unable to pay their electricity bills. So every month they'll come to SSNIT for more money to go and pay light bill, to go and pay staff's SSNIT contribution. Right? So you are a hotel right next to Labadi, which is making money. You are not making money. You are rather a drain on the resources of SSNIT. So more pension money is coming to you every month. SSNIT even had to send SSNIT staff to go and work there. Yes, this is a board member of SSNIT saying that these are the things that led to SSNIT deciding that, you know what, let's just get out of the hotel business. Let's sell them all. So that's the decision that board made. They didn't decide who to sell it to. They just decided that SSNIT should stop owning hotels. Okay? Even though Labadi Beach was making money, I think Ridge Royal was also making money at the time. I'm sure. I'm not 100% certain. They are making money now, but back then I don't know. So before 2020, that board decided that SSNIT should just come out of the hotel business. Maybe they should find other things to invest the money in. They made that decision. This new board has managed the process since then. So the decision of who to sell it to was made by this board, and that's my second point. So the question of should SSNIT sell or not, it looks like a board decided based on profit and loss that it made sense for them to sell at the time all of their interest in all the 6 hotels. Now if the situation changes, they should also be able to change their decision. By the way, that's business. So today I'm losing money, so I want to sell, but then tomorrow I'm making money. Do I still want to sell? So this new board has a new decision to make. There's nothing binding them to by force stick with the old decision if the situation changes. That's why there's a problem with this idea that they are selling all of them together as a product, one product. Because if one is making money, and by the way, Labadi Beach Hotel is making a lot of money. The last year they paid about 25 million cedis dividends to government. But do you know how much cash they have in the bank? Over 180 million Ghana cedis. That's how much cash they have, and they are making more every day. So this is a viable business. You will have to ask yourself, is it worth selling this company? And how much will you sell it for? If their cash alone is 180 million, Then the land too is how much? Then the property is how much? Their future earnings, how much? So how much will you sell Abadi alone for? Before you then come to, you see where I'm going here. So you don't just get up and say the previous board decided to sell, maybe for good reason then. So we too, we are going to sell. Who are you selling it to? The Minister for Agric. You're selling state property to a Minister of State. I'm sorry, but that sentence, how does it sound? How does it sound? What is right about that? But you see, because we've been doing this for so long, it then becomes difficult for anybody to even point out what is so obviously wrong with it. Because we started this a long time ago. People buying government vehicles, government land, people in government. We've been doing this. Jacob Bilamte was taken to court by Okujeto Black for the same nonsense. Because that's how we think. So we've been doing this for so long, and then it's not just buying property, but even contracts. Look, if you are related, if there's a promotion at Joy, recently we did some promotion to get people to fly for free to South Africa. Me, I'm dying to go to South Africa, but I can't go and buy a ticket. Why can't I go and buy a ticket? Because even if I buy a ticket and I win through sheer luck, how do I convince anybody that I didn't let the person picking the winner, I didn't tell the person to pick me? How do I convince anybody of that? So in order to ensure we never have to have any awkward conversations with the public, we have a rule that we cannot benefit from the thing we are doing for the public. Public good over private interest. That's why we pick people to serve in public office. So if you're in public office and you realize that your private interest is more important to you than public good, you must leave that public office. It's as simple as that. Right? So we've been doing this for so long. People are buying the properties that they were assigned as government employees. People are buying the cars that they were given as appointees. People are look. Why do we give contracts? Why would the president give a contract to his brother? Why? Why are we okay with that? But it's happened in this country. It's happened. And you see, what will happen is that and by the way, I'm talking about Ibrahim Mahama and John Mahama. The defense Ibrahim Mahama will give you is that I bid for it. I went through the right process and I won. So please, it's different from Brian Achampong. But Brian Achampong also bid for it. Didn't he? He bid for it. Why does that make it right? Why did you bid for it? It's a government project. Your brother is the president. Why did you bid for it? It's a government project. You are in government. Why did you bid for it? It's the same with Kenu Furiata. Why should his insurance company be doing insurance for government? Why do you bid for the business? Why should your what's it called, data bank be the transactional advisor whenever you go for a loan in the name of government of Ghana? So as you are making the country poorer, your business is getting richer. Why should you benefit from being in public office? Why should you benefit personally? Why don't we see what is clearly wrong with that? But we've done it for so long that now even pointing a finger at Brian Achampong seems like we're being selective because everybody is doing it. Right. Why do we have a problem with only him? Right. Let me end with what the president has decided to do. He has instructed the employment minister to go and address labor's issues. Amma, do you know what that's like? That's like you and me. We work for Kwame. Kwame has given us a project to do. You are in charge, but I'm working with you. Now, you want us to do something on the project that I think is illegal. I don't like it. So I tell you that, Amma, I don't want us to do it that way. But you are in charge, so you overrule me. And we go ahead to do it. So I go to Kwame. I say, Kwame, look, this thing that Amma is doing, I don't like it. I think it's bad. So do something about it. Kwame says, okay. IB, go and explain to Kojo what Amma is doing. IB, who was not in the committee with us, who was not in the meeting with us, who doesn't know anything about what you and I were working on. But he is now coming to explain to me what I don't understand about what we are doing. The employment minister, is he on the SSNIT board? So how will he explain to labor what's going on there? How will he deal with labor's issues? Then after that there will be a meeting with SSNIT and The president appointed the person who is buying the property. If the president felt there was anything wrong with that person buying the property, the president would have spoken to that person and said, my friend, if you want to buy state property, get out of my government. Clearly he hasn't done that. So that's not his problem.
Right.
He doesn't have a problem with that. All he wants is for someone to explain to labor so they stop complaining. Can you imagine?
Well, Kwame, other issues come up, and one of those issues would be, this issue about parliamentary procedure. Where Okujeto Ablakwa explains that as a public sector worker, not just as a parliamentarian or as a minister, and Mr. Brian Champon's case, he's both. He works in parliament, he works as a minister. To be able to do private business, you need permission. He says his checks indicate that he doesn't have that permission. He says as we sit in Ghana today, there are only 47 people who have permission as people who work within the public sector to also operate private businesses. That's one issue for me. The second issue for me in all of this is also the fact that the transaction advisor earned in excess of what? 491, help me with the figures, my maths, goodness.
$1,000
million.
$1,000. $191,000.
I told you my maths is bad. Right? And you put all let me compound it even more. There's one more issue I wanted to address. This issue with your chief, your chief, the Edna, paramount chief of Edna, where Elmina, he's written a letter, in all of this saying that Mr. Brian Champon was spotted within the community inspecting the property and all, but that's not even his concern. His concern is that we give the land to the state for the construction of the hotel, and yet somehow nobody has had a conversation with us in all of this. You need to come to us and have that conversation with us about the land that we give to the state, for this hotel. Right? There's more. There's also the issue of the minority shareholders saying that in all of this, nobody has had a conversation with us about that. Wouldn't it be just, what's the word I'm looking for? Proper. That perhaps the people to have been offered first an opportunity to buy, wouldn't it have been the thing to do, to offer the minority shareholders an opportunity? I mean, I'm just thinking aloud. But, so many branches to this issue, so many things that do not sit well with so many people, so many players. All stakeholders seem to have an issue with all of this. And yet, upon all the public outcry, all the public outrage, we seem to be going ahead with the sale. Let me quickly remind everybody that on the 18th of June, the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa has invited all of us to join him in a public protest against the sale, of these 4 hotels. Kwame, we don't have time. We have just about 3 minutes, and then we're out.
That's the problem. You've asked me
Seven questions.
a bit full of questions, and I don't know where to look at them from. But clearly, I just want to, in response to the first question that you asked, I think Brian Champa sought to explain on Kojo's show that yes, on paper he is a director, but in terms of the operational structure of the business, he is not. He doesn't earn anything. He's not on what's it called, GRA and things like that. The PE and things. He's not part of it. I think that we work with documents, we work with evidence, and in relation to or in respect of the company registration document, you are a director. You are a director. And if you are the owner of the business, say I own a company and Kojo is my partner, when Kojo gives me money, do I have to go and disclose how much Kojo give to me? It will not even go through the system. Once you own it, you own it.
You understand? So I may not necessarily be in the stream, but I'll definitely be benefiting, which is why he is the one who is leading the discussions.
I have a question. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry. Just a quick inquiry here. He says he's non-executive director, which
Yes.
means he doesn't partake in day-to-day
Absolutely.
activities. So what was he doing in Elmina?
That's the question. That's why I said, why is he the one leading the discussions? I mean, clearly, SSNIT is engaging Rock City Hotel by reason of the involvement of what's his name, Brian Achampo. That's just that. Because you see the explanation about even when the negotiations started and things like that, and it's true. I've read the documents. In fact, and the response from SSNIT gave themselves away when they said that they had negotiated this thing right from 2018, and they had already published where 15 people expressed interest and they reduced it to 6, and then they, in fact, at the time, even had appointed a transactional advisor. Then all of a sudden, that whole process was truncated and then began again in 2022. And then now, Brian Achampo's company finds its name in there. Now they have the technical and financial expertise to be able to buy. I mean, it's a murky situation. And for me, I think that we need to do what is right. But you see, I think IB and Kojo have both made mention of the fact that it is important to preserve state properties. Honestly, we do have to preserve state properties. This belongs to pensioners, and I always struggle with it. Pensioners. I struggle with it, but pensioners, right? And it is ultimately their decision. Because and I do recall that even in the beginning, when these hotels were about to be put up, there were questions. They raised serious questions, and they said, "Oh, it's viable, it's profitable. We'll be able to invest the money properly, so we can pay you your pension fees." That is why they gave him. Now you come to sell the thing to you, won't consult them. The people who actually gave you their money, the workers, the people who are on pension, you are using their money, and you don't want to consult them in all of this. I find that to be very, first of all, disrespectful, even to the people who contribute to the fund. Have a discussion with them. Have they said they want to sell it? No. Secondly, why is it that you are only interested in 4 hotels? Why not all the 6? So you are picking and choosing the ones which are profitable, and you are leaving the ones which are not profitable to SSNIT to manage. It doesn't make sense. Ridge Royal Hotel, I can assure you, it's always full. Labadi Beach Hotel, it's always full. They are making huge returns, in fact, paying dividends to the state in terms of revenue and taxes. So what are you talking about? So Brian Achampo can only purchase a hotel that is profitable in order that he can make returns. You know, and even the payment structure, have you noticed the payment structure? No. That, so the way they are, well, that is the explanation somebody gave to me. I don't know whether it's true or not. But they are not fiscally even paying for it. I think there's a structure which allows them.
Well, the Honorable Okujocha Blackwell explains that this will not be the first time he's buying a state hotel. He's done that in Kumasi. Yeah. And with that one, he says the payments were made in installments.
Installment, yes.
But Champon denies that, though.
He denies that.
Yeah, he denies that, obviously. But I'm sure, you know, allegations will not be made without attending.
Come we don't have time.
We don't have time.
We don't have
so
time. We don't have
I don't
time.
know. I'll leave it here.
We don't have time.
Yeah, but quickly.
Right.
If the state really wants to get these hotels to be viable, it can. The state is able to drive programs, events to private hotels, delivery. So the owners can make money.
The thing is that when the president sleeps at, for instance, Ridge Royal Hotel, do they pay for it?
That's the question.
Do they pay for it? Like ECG. ECG is running at a loss, not by reason of the incompetence of the MD, but by reason of the inability of the state to pay them. When they go to Labadi Beach Hotel, it's a Labadi.
Okay, we don't have time.
No, I'm serious. They don't pay for it. And that is why all these companies are struggling to breathe. To be honest with you, if we are to do what is right, they are very profitable, and they are even at places where tourism is flourishing.
Yes.
So
the other thing is that I'm also very sick and tired of glorifying inefficiency. You know, which is what this comes down to. It's like saying we can't manage, and as if it's okay.
And by
we can't
the way,
manage.
a hotel that is struggling, the other one, La Palme. Do you know how much the CEO is paid every month?
That's a conversation for another day. Thank you, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Kojo, you're on your way back to Joy FM, right? Well, Ivy, you're on your way back to EI. I'm going to stay here with you in Pan African TV. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.